Do we have Dave Rubin complaining about breakfast cereal?
There's something actually much more nefarious happening directly to your kids, and they're constantly going after the children. So this is wild. This is from the Libs of TikTok Twitter account, and you know Libs of TikTok, she gets in a lot of trouble with all the evil people. Froot Loops promotes free access to a digital library on their cereal boxes for kids. The library offers a range of books to teach kids themes of equity, diversity, and inclusion. Kellogg's wants to indoctrinate your children with breakfast cereal. Stop giving them your money. Instead, shop at official Public Square, where you can find millions of products from companies that you can be sure to share your values. Check them out here, blah, blah, blah. But look at these images on the Froot Loops box. You can see their digital library, and what's going on in their digital library? It's a free online library of equity, diversity, and inclusion, family-centric content, including books, podcasts, and more, created in partnership, blah, blah, blah. All of this, it is, first off, if you are giving, I have 2 young children, like they have had basically no sugar. They're eating organic, they're eating real foods. These kids are huge, great, happy, and healthy. And I will never, the idea of giving them just a bowl of pure sugar, you're just giving them a bowl of sugar and die when you put Froot Loops. And I get it, I loved Froot Loops when I was a kid, right? But like there's a better way to parent.
I went on a tangent at the end.
It did. I think he kind of forgot that he was supposed to be, he was supposed to be talking about wokeness.
He seems a lot more passionate about health foods and about his big, beautiful sons or whatever. Did he say my kids are big? He said they're big, right? They're big, happy, or like huge, happy, and healthy. Is that what he said?
Oh, well, all right. Look, I have nothing against Dave Rubin's huge children, and their many healthy breakfasts.
I'm actually happy they're having healthy breakfast too, you know?
Yeah. I want that. I want that for them, for the huge Rubin children. No.
Is that like a nice compliment when you like visit someone and meet their kids? Like, my God, your children are huge. What do you must be feeding them healthy foods, Mr. Rubin.
They're tremendous. Yes.
They're tremendous in size.
They said that about my kids. Just how big my kids were, and I'm like, I don't give them Froot Loops.
You're large. You're large.
These large sons Froot Loops.
I mean, does he go into what the books are, or is that
no?
That's just they're about.
Well, although if you actually do go and look at them, they're just really sweet books. One of them is entirely silent, and it was a book written about the author's deaf sister. And it's about a deaf child just navigating the world. And it's absolutely beautiful because they make friends with their neighbor, and he just becomes friends with this girl with coloring.
That's one of the books. That's one of the books in the Froot Loops.
Yes, that Dave Rubin is so terrified of.
I mean, like, as much as I hate any form of woke fear mongering, I mean, what are the chances that Froot Loops they're going to be like your guide to Israel and Gaza, your guide to CRT, your guide to
that's that like you go to the Froot Loops library and it's like it's and what's it's gonna be like Derek Bell and Kimberly Crenshaw.
It's how to blow up a pipeline for children.
How to blow up a pipeline.
For kids version. Yeah. I mean, that would be kind of rad. But
I mean, maybe I didn't look too hard to see if A is for activism was on there.
I mean, I'm down to be wrong.
How hard do you have to look? Surely that'd be at the beginning.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm down to be wrong, but I would be curious to see what those books are. I mean,
just before B is for Black nationalism and C is for communism. Right? That's the children's like wokeness library. I don't. Such as like I don't know. I have I mean, look, I'm sure it's all fine, but I would also expect the educational content of the Froot Loops library to be about the same as the nutritional content of Froot Loops, right? That's like, I'm sure it's all like, vaguely benevolent, but like pretty vacuous, right? That would be my best guess, because like I don't think that the Froot Loops Corporation is courting controversy.
There's just
Right.
like a QR code, and it links you to Norm Finkelstein's Twitter. Just they're like, this is for all kids. Need to see this. It's probably not. It's probably not that. Oh man.
Although I gotta say, my kids are mad every single time I give them a QR code and it goes to Norm Finkelstein's Twitter. They just yell at me.
That's
Dad, you promised us that this was going to be something different.
Yeah, it's a Rickroll for GTAA audiences.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, you guys know more about Dave than I do, but his heart did not seem in it. Like I feel like I mean, I don't want to use the grifter term or anything, but he seems like someone.
I actually do think Dave Rubin's a grifter.
Oh, he's the one. He's the one that you use, right? Because he just he did not seem to care. He did not seem to care.
Yeah, he's one of the two people I always bring up, along with Milo Yiannopoulos, of people who I actually do think are grifters. Like the term is so wildly overused, but it's like, no, there are actually a few pretty clear cases, and I genuinely believe that he's one of them. I think that the stuff that I think he probably does, actually in Quillette of all places, there was like a decent article about him like last year, I want to say, maybe it was earlier this year, where they kind of profiled him. Like, it's not an article he liked, right? They profile him from his early like kind of his early attempts at a comedy career up through what was then the present. And they do kind of say, like, the author, I not remember his name off the top of my head, my apologies, but he's, the author says, like, does say Rubin probably has a couple of genuine political beliefs that, certainly actually connect to what we were just talking about, the pro-Israel stuff, which actually has a lot to do with his initial break from the Young Turks, and his drift to the right, and sort of related to that, right? His sort of like, because I think part of what happened with that initial break was that he was mad about, like, Cenk Uygur's criticisms of and, like, debate with Sam Harris that about Islam. There's a lot of that, right? But it's like, also, like, okay, there are like a few things that I think he does actually probably believe, but, like, in general, it's like, no, his fucking heart is in this, right? I think he would be equally happy to make fun of people who are mad about Fruit Loops, and he could, if that was, like, sort of where he thought, like, his overall career path should take him, he would still throw in the thing at the end about, now I personally don't give my children Fruit Loops because it's sugary crap. That part, I agree with you. That felt sincere to me. And
well,
by the way, like, people will recall, there is a friend of mine who used to regularly have dinner with Dave Rubin and his husband, who's apparently a really good cook. So I have, I totally believe that the Rubin household, that those children are eating well and not being served Fruit Loops, and good for them, frankly, right? But like overall, it's like, okay, one part of what's funny about this is, it's like, if it was certainly a 1990s conservative who was, like, getting mad about Fruit Loops, and frankly, some conservatives now who weren't Dave Rubin, like, come on, what would be the obvious thing to go for here? The word fruit is in the name, right? That's surely, right? It's turning you gay, right? Like that would be the thing, right? Of course,
Yeah.
Dave Rubin.
I could just see him though. He could. He's like, I wasn't gay until I had Fruit Loops as a kid.
Interested Dave Rubin impression.
Yeah. That's all right. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, that's true. That's true. I suppose
he could have. I mean,
I suppose he could have done that. Maybe he has just a little scrap of dignity left, stopping him from doing that. Although, famously he sort of sat there and took it, and when Ben Shapiro told him that he wouldn't go to that if he held a party for his wedding anniversary, he wouldn't go to it because he's not going to go to a commemoration of a sinful event like a same-sex marriage. But but in any case, yeah, I mean, I think that, I think that Dave Rubin, like when it comes right down to it, I think he barely gives a shit about most of this. If you look at his progression, right, he went from, he was on TYT, and then when he broke off from them and started doing his own thing, he went to his initial thing was like, oh, I'm a liberal, I'm just like I'm like the last liberal, or I'm a real liberal, right? So I don't like this I don't like like contemporary American progressivism because I'm like a classical liberal. And then that kind of deepened into, well, he's just a libertarian, but like in this way that, I think famously very little thought seemed to have been put into. I mean, we must have shown it on the show at some point over the course of the last few years. I don't remember off the top of my head, but there is a classic and much beloved by me clip. This is something that Michael played on the Majority Report of Dave Rubin on Joe Rogan, and they start talking about Rubin's libertarianism, and Joe's asking him, like, so why do you think this, whatever? And Rubin's like, man, the government, they don't do anything right? What does the government do? Like what is the government good at? And Joe, just in perfect Joe Rogan everyman mode, is like, I think they do the post office pretty good. And Rubin has to defend, like, no, actually the post office doesn't, and he's like, we could get rid of the post office, privatize or whatever. Everything would be fine because, there'd be Amazon and drones and competition would start to kick in, and, and it's just Joe Rogan making the argument that it's like, no, I don't think Amazon would deliver a letter from like rural Alaska to Los Angeles for less than $1, right? Like that seems really unlikely.
The whole chickens conversation, remember that? It's just like it's like Joe Rogan's like, Dave Rubin's like, well, I mean, they did actually get the chickens there okay, and it's like, yeah, that's because that's the only way you can get it.
Oh, well, actually it was better because Rubin was saying that UPS had just delivered these chickens, and
yes.
and Rogan was like, no, man, that wasn't UPS. The UPS doesn't do that, right? That was the Postal Service. And Rogan was like, oh, was it? Okay. So he's just inadvertently told a story about the U.S. Postal Service doing a good job. And then the even better part of that conversation, there is quite a bit of circumstantial evidence after this that he was just sort of firmly taken off of the future guest list. I don't think, Rogan's never said that exactly, but there are these clips of Rubin being like, we keep reaching out to the Rogan people to ask if I can get back on, and there's also a clip of Rogan himself being like, yeah, I'm happy to have anybody on with like different points of view, but not if I don't think they really mean it. And it's like, who's he talking about here? I've got my strong suspicions, but the better part of that conversation, that's, if possible, even better than the thing about the post office, when they start talking about regulations, and Rubin takes the position essentially that you wouldn't need government regulation in a libertarian utopia because the same rule could be played by like bad Yelp reviews.
I lost my arm in the crane accident. Don't go work there. I mean, I don't know. It seems really far. I guess they think that an apparatus. I mean, he probably doesn't believe it. I don't want to spend too long on him. The last thing, was just real quick. It's just very funny that he's like, the elites are trying to indoctrinate your children, and also me, a non-elite, is going to shame you for feeding your kids fucking Froot Loops, and you should be eating vegetables instead. It's like, I think there's probably an overlap on the Froot Loop crowd and the people who think that people who enjoy Froot Loops and the people who are against woke indoctrination. There's probably a pretty big overlap there. I don't think you're going to get them with the argument, Fruit Loops aren't delicious and nutritious. I think maybe you got to see that point. It's delicious, it's nutritious, great healthy breakfast but unfortunately, it's woke. So you got to go to another. Like I don't I don't think the Bud Light thing was like
I mean, I'm a centrist on the Fruit Loops question. I think it's delicious but not nutritious. But
like with Bud Light, they weren't saying like, oh, Bud Light is disgusting, right? Because they've all been drinking Bud Light. For a long time. They're like, true, unfortunately, it went. Anyway.
No. I mean, look, I have I think it's gross that those people got mad at Bud Light, for having a trans spokeswoman, but they have but also, if you drink Bud Light, I think you should. I think you need to think about how much respect you have for yourself if you're drinking that. And I'm purely talking on a taste level here. But in any case, I mean, just watching that conversation and Rogan being like, I don't know, man. You don't think like building sites, like you don't think like you need regulation that like this buildings fall apart later. It's that's is just a thing of beauty. And not long afterwards, after putting out his big like classical liberalism free speech book, which is the extracts I read, I didn't read much of it, but Matt McManus posted some extracts, and I decided that my time is probably
the grenade.
Let him take the grenade. Exactly. I do think based on the extracts I read, I do kind of believe that Rubin wrote that himself. It's at that level, but probably no ghostwriter involved. But that was all classical liberalism. I love free speech, etc. And then he did another pivot after that, and decided, actually, you know what? I'm not a classical liberal. I'm a conservative. And maybe those were all sincere evolutions, but gosh, it sure doesn't feel like it to me. Like, as you say, there's a lot more passion in his voice when he was talking about Fruit Loops being a shitty breakfast than there is when he's talking about Fruit Loops being woke. And yeah, I also like, yeah, you know what? I want a society where everybody has tons of time and energy to like cook healthy meals for their kids. That is not the one we live in. You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive postgames on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.